Have you ever been high on love? It doesn't seem possible, does it? Well, there is a science that studies the behavior of our brains when it happens. And the fact is that love is a hurricane of emotions, so chaotic and difficult to describe by conventional definitions that most people know it better by directly experiencing it than anything else. However, the University of Life is not the only place where it is possible to learn relevant aspects of the mechanisms behind love. In fact, in the field of neuroscience, more and more is known about the logic that guides our affectivity. The research carried out in this field of science does not speak to us about love as poetry or cinema do. It reduces this set of feelings to its most basic elements, which can be found in our brain and in our nervous system in general. You are in EdDevelop. Here you will find the best curiosities and facts on YouTube. I invite you to subscribe and activate the notification bell to make your day much better every time we upload a new video. If you're interested in love and neuroscience, our Patreon channel has all the love you're looking for. Consider subscribing and you will love all the content we have for you. Find the link below in the description. Helping the growth of our project is a form of love. Now it is time for the fun part. One of the most shocking of the many discoveries that have been made about the neuroscience of love is that falling in love has a very similar effect on our brains to that of a drug. So we ask ourselves, is love in the heart or not? If we take into account the whole explanation of what happens in our brain when we fall in love or like someone, we would think that it is not. When we talk about emotion, culturally, it is usually associated with the heart. But emotions are a cognitive process and have a brain processing that produces all the symptomatology that is generated by certain physical sensations that can be identified as love. From a very idyllic and romantic perspective, you might think so, but clearly, love is a display of chemicals activated in certain areas of the brain that end up producing the physical sensations we know as love. If you have ever thought that love makes us addicted to someone in particular, it is because you have experienced a phenomenon that neuroscientists have proven in the laboratory. When we become addicted to someone, our brain learns to secrete a lot of substances on its own that produce a state of acute ecstasy that comes on suddenly. And yes, don't kid yourself. Even if you tell yourself that you have a stone heart, this effect is not under your control. It is your body giving you what you need. These substances are oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, elements that our brain constantly uses to varying degrees to make our neurons communicate with each other. When we sense the presence of the person we love, these microscopic particles flood large areas of our brain, completely altering the chemical balance of our minds. So think twice before you say you've never gotten high. I know, it's not very romantic, is it? I'm going to show you what each of these substances does in our brain when they begin to be released so that they have this loving effect on you. Oxytocin. Oxytocin, for example, appears in large quantities during moments of intimacy when friendly or protective relationships are established. In fact, something as simple as looking into each other's eyes for a few seconds causes levels of this substance to rise sharply. This even happens when we look into the eyes of a pet dog. And it happens with oxytocin levels in dogs. Dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter most responsible for the euphoria we feel when we are in love with someone. Its release in large quantities fills us with well-being and makes us try to repeat the experience in the future. Called the drug of excitement, it is responsible for giving you all the energy you need for that moment when you feel that click, when their hands touch yours, or when you see a person approaching you that makes your brain behave in an erratic way. And what parts of the brain are most affected by these sudden changes? Interestingly, they're the same ones that are most directly involved in the effects of drugs like heroin on the human brain. This group of brain regions is called the reward system. You may be wondering what the hell this is all about, so have a look. Located in the limbic system, the part of our brain responsible for generating emotions, the reward system is basically what makes us direct our actions towards certain goals and away from others. What is desirable is what makes the reward system give us sensations of pleasure, while other neutral situations will not produce any particular state of well-being, and others will produce pain. In drug use, the reward system is hacked by substances that should not be there, and this causes us to confuse the use of these substances with basic needs because of the short-term pleasurable sensation they produce. That is why we recommend using love as a drug, but only love. Of course, in the case of falling in love, there is no external substance that interferes with the functioning of the nervous system, and therefore the effect of falling in love is not harmful to health. However, one of the negative elements of drugs is also present in this very natural phenomenon. It is the abstinence that we suffer when we realize that something separates us from the loved one. And this is also the case with the great dreaded prayer like, "We need to talk." Yes, I know. Who isn't paralyzed by this sentence? Before we continue talking about your favorite drug, the love, I invite you to like this video and share it with the person you share your life with, so they know what it does to you. What is love withdrawal syndrome? A brain that has been exposed to love eventually gets used to treating the experience of moments shared with the loved one as if they were real-life milestones. The chain reaction caused by the chemical substances that appear in large quantities when we are close to that person not only produces pleasure, but also a feeling of reward. Therefore, we not only enjoy the moments we share with that special person, but we also get used to anticipating those moments. When we fantasize about these situations, we're doing nothing more than mentally rehearsing what it feels like to receive the reward of a loved one's company. However, this new way of finding well-being in simple, everyday acts has a less pleasant side. If the set of parts of our brain that are activated by the use of drugs in the presence of a loved one is called the reward system, it is precisely because it depends on it to determine what we consider to be a goal and what is uninteresting in our eyes. And just as the most addictive drugs can cause all of our life goals to be reduced to drug use in order to experience wellness again, however fleetingly, falling in love creates a similar kind of dependency. That misnamed saying, "all your happiness revolves around," in a short time we can see how everything we value is related to a life in which the loved one is by our side. That is why, after falling in love with someone, if that person disappears or is no longer as available as we expected, we remain not only sad for a time, but also unable to experience moments of significant well-being. The compass of our reward system keeps pointing to that person, even though we cannot give our brain what it wants because of circumstances outside the functioning of our neurons. This is where we experience the feeling of habit, and in the moment of absence, our brain is so accustomed to this rush of substances that it enters the state we all call heartbreak. Anyway, it is known that love is not experienced in the same way during the first months as it is during the rest of the relationship. At the beginning, the moments together produce more intense and sudden injections of well-being, while after a few years, the situation normalizes. Of course, love does not have to be understood as just a series of chemical reactions that occur in our heads. Falling in love can be scripted, depicted in pictures, or orally narrated by the person experiencing it. And the fact that it takes a brain to experience it does not mean that all these sensations are nothing more than a chain of reaction of molecules interacting with neurons. The neuroscience of love gives us a closer interpretation of what we experience when we fall in love. And as always, the ultimate definition of what love is can only be imagined by each of us. The lovers who experience it dare to live it. Thanks for making it to the end of this video. Let us know what you think in the comments and tell us what experiences you've had with love or what topic you'd like us to cover in a future video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. See you next time.